The rain came down in sheets that November evening, turning the back streets of downtown into rivers of grey water. Marcus Webb pulled his coat tighter and kept walking, his worn boots splashing through puddles. At 56, Marcus had learned to keep his head down and keep moving. The city wasn't kind to homeless veterans, even ones who'd served 2 tours in Afghanistan. 3 years ago, he'd had a home, a job as a mechanic, and weekend custody of his son. Then his daughter, Sophie, got leukemia. The medical bills swallowed everything. His ex-wife couldn't handle it alone. Marcus had drained his savings, lost his apartment trying to pay for treatments, and when Sophie died at 14, he'd lost himself too. Now he spent his nights at the shelter on 5th Street when there was room, and under the bridge when there wasn't. His son, Tyler, was 19 now, away at community college on a partial scholarship. He didn't know his father was homeless. Marcus had made sure of that. He was cutting through the alley behind the old Morrison building when he saw her. At first, Marcus thought it was just a pile of discarded clothes. But then he saw the hand, pale and motionless, reaching out from beneath a sodden grey coat. He was beside her in seconds, years of military medical training kicking in automatically. "Mom, can you hear me?" She was a woman in her early 60s, he guessed, though it was hard to tell through the grime and the rain. Her clothes were strangely expensive once, perhaps, but torn and filthy now. Her face was gaunt, her lips tinged blue. She wasn't moving. Marcus pressed 2 fingers to her throat. Pulsy, faint and irregular, but there. Her breathing was shallow, labored. Hypothermia, probably. Maybe worse. "Mom, I'm going to help you. Stay with me." He shrugged out of his coat, his only coat, and wrapped it around her. Then he gathered her into his arms. She weighed almost nothing. The emergency room was 6 blocks away. Marcus started walking, then jogging, cradling this stranger against his chest, trying to shield her from the rain with his own body. "Hold on," he whispered. "Just hold on." The ER staff moved quickly once Marcus carried her through the automatic doors. They took her from his arms, placed her on a gurney, began calling out medical terms he half remembered from combat medicine. "Are you family?" a nurse asked. "Number." "I found her in an alley. She needs help. We'll take care of her. You can wait over there if you'd like." Marcus nodded and moved to the waiting area, suddenly aware of how he must look, soaking wet, homeless, out of place in the sterile brightness. A security guard watched him carefully. Marcus was used to that look. He should leave. He'd done what he could. This woman was a stranger, and he had his own problems. But something kept him in that plastic chair. Maybe it was the military code he'd never quite shaken, leave no one behind. Maybe it was lonelier than he wanted to admit. Maybe it was the memory of Sophie in a hospital bed, and how much it had meant when people stayed. An hour passed, then 2. The guard's watchful gaze never left him. Finally, a doctor emerged. "Are you the man who brought in Jane Doe?" "Yes, sir." "Is she going to be okay?" The doctor studied him for a moment. "She's stable now." "Severe hypothermia, pneumonia, dehydration, malnutrition." "Another hour and we'd have lost her." "You saved her life." He paused. "She's been asking for you. She's very insistent about speaking with the man who found her." Marcus blinked in surprise. "She's awake." "Barely, but determined." "Room 347, if you'd like to see her." The woman looked impossibly small in the hospital bed, hooked to monitors and IVs. But her eyes were open and alert. As Marcus entered, they were sharp eyes, intelligent, and they studied him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "You're the one who carried me," she said. Her voice was hoarse but surprisingly strong. 6 blocks in the rain. "Yes, Mom. I'm glad you're okay." "Sit down, please." It wasn't a request, despite the word please. It was the voice of someone used to being obeyed. Marcus sat in the chair beside her bed. "What's your name?" she asked. "Marcus Webb." "I'm Victoria Hartwell." She watched his face for recognition and seemed satisfied when she found none. "You don't know who I am?" "Good. That's refreshing, actually." "Should I know you?" Mom?" A ghost of a smile crossed her face. "Probably. I'm the CEO of Hartwell Industries. Or I was, until 6 weeks ago when my board of directors decided I was too old and too sick to run my own company anymore. They forced me into retirement, stripped me of my voting shares through some very clever legal maneuvering. 50 years building that company, and they took it in an afternoon." Marcus didn't know what to say to that. "I had a penthouse apartment," Victoria continued, her voice distant. "Personal chef, driver, people who handled every detail of my life, and I realized I didn't have a single person I could call a friend. Not one person who cared about me rather than my money or influence. So I decided to see what life was really like. I walked away from everything, dressed in old clothes, took nothing, wanted to understand how the other half lived. That's a dangerous game, Mom. I'm learning that." She coughed, and Marcus reached for the water cup, helping her take a sip. "I lasted 6 weeks. No money, no connections, no one caring who I was or had been. It was enlightening, and then it became terrifying, and then it nearly killed me, until you came along." She fixed him with those sharp eyes again. "You were homeless yourself, weren't you? I can tell. The way you moved through that alley, the way the security guard looked at you. And yet you gave me your only coat, carried me 6 blocks, waited here for hours even though you have nowhere to go and nothing to gain. Why?" Marcus met her gaze steadily. "Because you needed help. That's reason enough. No one else helped me. I was in that alley for hours. Dozens of people walked past. Some looked, most didn't. But no one stopped. Except you. I'm sorry for that, Mom." People can be scared, or in a hurry, or are. Don't make excuses for them. Victoria's voice was sharp. "I spent 6 weeks learning exactly who stops and who keeps walking. The people with the least gave the most. The people like you." She paused, then asked quietly, "Tell me your story, Marcus Webb. How does a veteran who saves strangers end up homeless?" Marcus hesitated. He didn't like talking about it. But something in her eyes saw a genuine interest, or maybe just a shared understanding of loss made him speak. He told her about Afghanistan, about coming home, about Sophie and the cancer and the bills that never stopped, about losing everything trying to save his daughter and failing anyway, about his son at college who didn't know the truth. "Tyler's getting good grades," Marcus said. "He wants to be an engineer. I send him emails from the library computers. He thinks I'm still working at the garage, still living in an apartment. I can't let him know. Can't let him worry. He needs to focus on school, on building a future." "You're protecting him," Victoria said softly. "I'm lying to him." "But yes, I guess I am." They sat in silence for a moment, then Victoria said, "I have no children, no family at all anymore. I built an empire and forgot to build a life. When I walked away 6 weeks ago, not a single person noticed I was gone. The board was probably relieved. But you, Marcus, you lost everything trying to save your daughter. You're homeless, but you still give away your coat. You lie to your son to protect his dreams. You understand what I spent 62 years never learning." "What's that, Mom?" "That the measure of a life isn't what you accumulate. It's what you're willing to give away. It's who you help when there's nothing in it for you. It's the love you show even when it costs you everything." Her eyes filled with tears. "I wasted so much time, Marcus. So much time on things that don't matter." "You still have time," Marcus said gently. "You're alive. That's what matters." Victoria reached out and took his hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong. "I want to offer you something, but I need you to understand it's not charity. It's payment for a debt I can never fully repay. You gave me back my life. Let me help you rebuild yours." 3 weeks later, Marcus stood in the doorway of a small but clean apartment on the east side. 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, a living room with windows that let in the afternoon sun. The keys were in his hand, still warm from Victoria's palm. "It's too much," he'd said when she first showed it to him. "It's not nearly enough," she'd replied. "And there's more. I want you to manage a project for me." The project, it turned out, was a new division of Hartwell Industries, so a program providing job training, housing assistance, and medical care for homeless veterans. Victoria had used her remaining personal fortune to fund it, and she wanted Marcus to run it. "I don't have experience with that kind of thing," Marcus had protested. "You have the only experience that matters. You've lived it. You understand what people need because you've needed it yourself. The rest you can learn." Now, standing in this apartment that was his, Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Hope. His phone rang. Tyler's name appeared on the screen of the son he could finally be honest with. 6 months later, Marcus sat in his new office at Hartwell House, reviewing applications for the veteran housing program. They'd helped 43 people get off the streets so far. 43 lives changed. Victoria stopped by most afternoons. She'd bought back enough shares to rejoin Hartwell Industries board, and she was using her influence very differently now. She'd also become something Marcus never expected, a friend. "There's someone here to see you," she said from his doorway, smiling mysteriously. Tyler walked in, and Marcus stood so fast he knocked papers off his desk. His son was supposed to be at school. "T, what are you doing here? Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine, Dad." Tyler's eyes were suspiciously bright. "I just wanted to see this place. See what you're building." "Mrs. Hartwell told me everything. About what happened after Sophie died. About you being homeless. About you lying to me to keep me in school." Marcus's heart sank. "Tyler, yeah, you sacrificed everything for us," Tyler interrupted, his voice thick with emotion. "First for Sophie, then for me. And you never asked for anything back. You never complained. You just kept going, kept trying to take care of us even when you had nothing. You're my son. That's what fathers do." "No," Tyler said, crossing the room to embrace him. "That's what heroes do. And I'm so proud of you, Dad." "So incredibly proud." Marcus held his son and wept, letting 3 years of held-back tears finally fall. Victoria watched from the doorway, smiling, then quietly left them alone. A year after that rainy November night, Hartwell House held its first annual fundraiser. The ballroom was filled with donors, politicians, and people whose lives had been changed by the program. Marcus stood at the podium in a suit that still felt strange, about to give a speech he'd rehearsed a dozen times. But before he could begin, Victoria took the microphone. "Most of you know me as the founder of Hartwell Industries," she said. "What you might not know is that a year ago, I nearly died in an alley, cold and alone, after abandoning everything to learn what it meant to be powerless. Dozens of people passed me by, but one man stopped. One man gave me his only coat and carried me to safety. One man reminded me what it means to be human." She turned to Marcus. "This program exists because of Marcus Webb. Not just because he inspired it, but because he embodies everything it stands for: service, sacrifice, the willingness to help even when it costs you everything." "Marcus, would you come up here?" Marcus joined her at the podium, uncomfortable with the attention. "I want to announce something tonight," Victoria continued. "Marcus has been the director of Hartwell House since its inception. As of today, he's also the executive vice president of Hartwell Industries, with full authority over all our charitable initiatives and a seat on the board of directors." The room erupted in applause. Marcus stared at her in shock. "You saved my life," Victoria said softly, "meant only for him. Now let me help you save others." That night, after the event ended, Marcus and Victoria stood on the balcony overlooking the city. Tyler was inside, talking animatedly with some of the program participants about starting a peer mentorship initiative. "I never thanked you properly," Marcus said, "for all of this. For believing in me. You thanked me by doing exactly what I knew you would, by caring about people, by building something that matters, by being the person I saw in that alley." Victoria smiled. "We saved each other, Marcus. That rainy night, we both got a second chance. I'd say we're making the most of it." Marcus thought about that night of the rain, the fear, the decision to stop when he could have kept walking. One choice, one moment. Everything changed. "I used to think I'd lost everything," he said quietly. "My home, my daughter, my dignity. I thought my life was over. And now I think maybe it was just beginning. I just didn't know it yet. Victoria nodded. The worst moments of our lives can become doorways if we are brave enough to walk through them. You walked through yours carrying a stranger. That took courage. You walked away from everything to find what mattered. That took courage too. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the city lights. Somewhere out there, Marcus knew, were people huddled in alleys, invisible to the rushing crowds, people who'd lost everything but were still someone's father, someone's son, someone's hero waiting to happen. Tomorrow, Hartwell House would help a few more of them, and the day after that, a few more still. It would never be enough, but it was something. And it had started with one man who stopped when everyone else kept walking, with one choice made in the rain, with one life saved that ended up saving another. "Thank you," Victoria whispered, looking out at the city. "For what?" Marcus asked. "For reminding me that the best things we can build aren't companies or fortunes. They're connections, kindness, second chances." She smiled at him. "They're friendships." Marcus smiled back. "You're welcome. And thank you for the same." In the ballroom behind them, Tyler laughed at something someone said. The sound carried through the open door, warm and alive and full of hope. Marcus had found a dying CEO in an alley. She'd whispered her story, and everything had changed. Not because of money or power or position, but because two broken people had chosen to help each other heal. And in healing, they'd found something worth far more than either had lost. They'd found purpose, connection, family. They'd found home. The end.